Are you ready to attend Lorwyn Eclipsed pre-release? Well, by the end of this video, you will be. Magic the Gathering is starting 2026 off with a bang, jumping straight into a set I believe might end up being the best of the year. And no, I am not exaggerating. It looks that good. It's Lorwyn Eclipsed, and pre-release events are going on all weekend long, this weekend. Pre-release is one of the best ways to experience a new set, and it's one of my favorite ways to play Magic, period. Whether you're a brand new player, an established one, or somewhere in between, pre-release is the event for you. Pre-release events are a form of sealed tournaments where you receive a pre-release kit, usually containing 6 sealed packs of the newest set, as well as 1 promo card and a 20-sided spin-down die, which you'll use for tracking your life total. Using this kit, and as many basic lands from your local game store's basic land station as you'd like, you'll build a deck of 40 cards to battle against other players who also built decks out of their pre-release kits. Now, if you've never attended a pre-release before, or if it's been a while since your last one, maybe you haven't been to pre-release since the last time Magic's been to Lorwyn, be sure to check out our brand new player's guide to playing in a pre-release or sealed event. This video will tell you everything you need to know if you're starting from or near starting from absolute scratch. It's also a great video to hand to a friend that you might be bringing along to pre-release with you, but this video will assume you know the basics of sealed deck construction and focus on how to succeed at Lorwyn's pre-release specifically. In this video, I'll cover everything you need to know to take your pre-release experience to the next level. I'll cover the set's mechanics, archetypes, and the key cards to be aware of when looking through your sealed pool. I'll even build a deck together using this pool that I'm going to open on camera in just a moment. We've got a lot to cover, so let's crack open our kit and take a look. But before we begin, let me just take in this beautiful evening. Why don't I have a ceiling?
Hey, look up here, I'm Mooncrow Prof, and I'm here to talk to you about Micro Center and tell you facts about the moon. Did you know the moon controls the tides? And also Dell laptops are only $479.99 at Micro Center. What's happening? Dear God, what's happening? Now you shall give me facts about the moon and/or Micro Center, or I will crash into you so hard you will need to steal an ocarina to turn back time. Navi, help! Navi is dead, so is the pony. Moon facts now or you shall join them.
The moon was formed when a big asteroid hit the Earth like a billion years ago, and Micro Center has locations everywhere.
We don't know that's what really formed the moon. It's only a working theory. And also, there aren't micro centers everywhere. There isn't one on the moon.
But there are 30 micro centers all across the country, including Santa Clara, California, Phoenix, Arizona, plus a brand new location is opening in Austin, Texas in late 2026.
Mooncrow Prof demands one final Mooncrow fact or I'm coming down there.
But there's just so many more things to say about both the Moon and Micro Center. For example, neither charges above MSRP for Magic the Gathering products.
The Moon confirms this to be true.
And both the Moon and Micro Center control the human emotion of love. Love for great savings on high-quality products.
Yes! Deals like an Asus OLED monitor for $229.99, a Logitech Brio webcam for $24.99, and a box of Lorwyn Eclipsed collector boosters for $323.99.
Hooray!
See you tomorrow at Mooncrow Center.
What?
Whee!
Let's start by opening up this pre-release kit and seeing what kind of deck we might build. As always, I recommend organizing your cards as you go. The best way to do this is by color and converted mana cost. I usually start by just grouping all of my cards into their appropriate color in Wooburg order, and then arrange them by mana cost, while separating the commons from the uncommons, rares, and mythics. I do this because the uncommon cards are going to give me the strongest signal as to what sort of deck I want to build, so easy visualization is the key. Once you have all 6 packs opened and organized, you can really get a feel for what cards and colors you might be interested in building a deck around. Looking at the pool currently in front of us, what is the first idea of what you'd like to build with it? I've actually gone ahead and linked the entire pool in this video's description, and I'll show you what I'd build using this pool at the end of the video. But first, let's go over some of the brand new mechanics in Lorwyn Eclipsed. The new mechanics of a set form the skeleton upon which the rest of the limited environment is built. When attending a pre-release, it's helpful to come in with an understanding of the mechanics of the set already in mind. This will save you a lot of time when building a deck from your pool. By knowing the mechanics, you'll be able to look at a card and say, Blight 2, okay, I know how that works, and move on to evaluating that specific card's viability for the deck that you're building. Lorwyn Eclipsed has only 2 brand new mechanics, which I'm going to cover in some detail, but it also has a pile of returning mechanics, which I'll cover more briefly than the brand new ones. There are only 2 brand new mechanics in Lorwyn Eclipsed, Vivid and Blight. Vivid is a new ability word that cares about how many colors among permanents you control. The name is a reference to the Vivid lands from original Lorwyn, which were, at the time, premier multicolor fixing in Standard. Your Vivid count will always be between 0 and 5. Vivid creatures are incredibly powerful when you have many colors of permanents in play. The threshold for many Vivid creatures to become playable is a Vivid count of 2, though of course it scales up from there. The most straightforward means of increasing your Vivid count is building a deck comprising many colors. There is a lot of permanent-based multicolor fixing in the set to enable this, especially for green decks. But you don't have to play green, or splash a bunch of colors at all, to increase your Vivid count. Perhaps the best way to increase your Vivid count is by including some of the many hybrid cards in the set. Hybrid cards can be cast off of mana of a single one of their colors, but in play they count as being both colors. That means a 2-color blue and red deck could reach a Vivid count of 5 if you run hybrid cards that touch the other 3 colors. The other notable way to increase your Vivid count is with artifacts that can become a color of your choice, foraging Wickermaw and Puka's Eye. The second new mechanic in Lorwyn is Blight. -1/-1 counters feature prominently in Lorwyn in various ways, and Blight is a big reason for that. To Blight, you put a number of -1/-1 counters equal to the Blight number on a creature you control. You do need to control a creature to Blight onto in order to Blight, so keep in mind that you don't just get a freebie Blight if you have no creatures in play, but you can put more Blight counters on a creature than that creature has toughness to survive. For instance, you can Blight 2 onto a 1/1 and make it extra unalive. Blight is a significant drawback to weather, which means you should not be blighting lightly, but many Blight effects are quite powerful to make up for the downside. Furthermore, there are many ways to remove counters from permanents you control for some beneficial effect. These abilities pair exponentially well with Blight, not only removing the downside from Blight, but giving you an additional bonus on top of that. As I said, there are several deciduous mechanics returning in Lorwyn Eclipsed, some of which were first introduced in original Lorwyn. I'll discuss each of these returning mechanics very briefly and highlight any rules quirks that you should be aware of. The first returning mechanic is Changeling. Changeling is a keyword that gives a creature every creature type. Changelings can help you fill out your deck's Kindred synergies. What are Kindred synergies? So glad that you asked. Kindred is a card type that adds a creature type to non-creatures. If a card references, for instance, a Goblin card, non-creature cards with a Kindred Goblin type line are included. Note that the same is not true when a card says Goblin creature. Kindred non-creatures are still non-creatures, even though they have a creature type line. Double face cards return in Lorwyn Eclipsed, with a never-before-seen twist. These DFCs in Lorwyn Eclipsed can only be cast on one side, but they have a clause that allows them to transform if you pay the stated cost at the beginning of your first main phase. Behold returns from Tarkir Dragonstorm in this set. To pay a Behold cost, choose a creature of the stated type or reveal a card of that type from your hand. This is a great example of the Kindred card type in action. You can reveal a non-creature Kindred card of the required creature type to pay Behold costs. There is a cycle of champions in Lorwyn Eclipse that also require you to exile the card you beheld. This is a fixed version of the champion a creature mechanic from original Lorwyn. You'll get the card you exiled back when the card that championed it leaves play, so the downside is only temporary. That said, if your champion gets countered, you do lose the card you exiled for good, so be careful running your champion out against a blue player with open mana. Evoke returns in Lorwyn Eclipsed. Evoke is a mechanic on some elementals that allows you to cast them for a reduced cost. If you do, you'll have to sacrifice them as soon as they enter play. The Evoke creatures in Lorwyn Eclipsed specifically care about the color of mana you spent to cast them, so be careful that you don't accidentally evoke one without paying 2 of the same color mana. Otherwise, you'll have thrown away your card for nothing. Persist is a powerful mechanic that brings a creature back when it dies with a -1/-1 counter on it if it didn't have 1 on it when it died. The ubiquity of -1/-1 counters in this set means that it won't be uncommon for a creature that has Persist to die with a -1/-1 counter on it that it received through some other means. But remember, there are many ways to remove -1/-1 counters from your creatures, even those that come back with Persist. Convoke returns in Lorwyn Eclipsed as well. The mechanic works as it always has before. You can tap creatures to help pay for Convoke costs. Remember, you can tap summoning sick creatures to pay for Convoke costs as well. A good limited deck is more than the sum of its parts. Limited environments are generally designed around a set of synergistic archetypes, which usually take the form of color pairs. In Lorwyn Eclipsed Limited, the strongest synergies are kindred ones, within each of the 8 major creature types of the plane: Kithkin, Merfolk, Elementals, Fairies, Giants, Goblins, Treefolk, and Elves. The 9th major creature type, Shapeshifters, doesn't have much self-synergy, but rather serves as glue in support of all the other creature types. Each of the 8 major creature types are associated with a set of colors, though some of them have representatives from outside their color pair. As there are 8 creature types but 10 color pairs, there are 2 color pairs without much kindred synergy: green-red and green-blue. These 2 color pairs are better served by leaning hard into the vivid mechanic rather than a kindred creature strategy, but I'll go into greater detail about that at the end of this section. One last note on the archetype section before we get started. As a general rule, when you build a Kindred deck, you should plan to include as many cards from the relevant creature types as you open. Rather than say that for every single creature type that I discuss here, I will instead call out key cards to each archetype, with particular attention paid to cards you might not know fit the deck. Green-White is the Kithkin Go Wide deck. Kithkin are back in Lorwyn Eclipsed, and they're here to flood the board with a lot of little guys. The Kithkin in Lorwyn Eclipsed are all within the green-white color pair. Most Kithkin in the set reward you for having a lot of them. One of my favorite low-rarity cards for this archetype is Klatchin Festival, a 3-mana uncommon Kindred Kithkin enchantment that adds 2 Kithkin to the board right away, then acts as a mana sink to pump out additional Kithkin in the late game. To my extreme delight, the blue-white deck is Convoke Merfolk. In this set, the Merfolk are largely designed to facilitate your Convoke spells. This means there are lots of untap effects and additional rewards for tapping Merfolk. To that end, one of the more important commons to this archetype is Unexpected Assistance, a powerful card draw spell with Convoke. Temporal Cleansing is an excellent removal spell for the archetype, as is Protective Response. Convoke isn't the only way to tap your creatures for profit, mind you. Several Merfolk ask you to tap other Merfolk as part of the cost of their abilities. In blue-black, you'll be building a tempo deck, and you'll be building it with fairies. The fairies deck is a disruptive up-tempo deck full of small evasive creatures and spells to cast on your opponent's turn. Unwelcome Sprite and Voracious Tome Skimmers are your best payoffs for this deck. Unwelcome Sprite in particular is one of the strongest uncommons in the set. The biggest pressure point with this deck is that there actually aren't that many fairy cards at low rarities. There is only one common fairy in each of the archetype colors, and only 4 more fairies at uncommon. You probably need at least 3 copies total from among Unwelcome Sprite, Voracious Tome Skimmer, and Nightmare Sower to make building this deck worthwhile. The Goblins of Lorwyn Eclipsed make up the red-black color pair, and this is actually a sacrifice deck disguised as a Kindred deck. The twist, though, is that there aren't any sacrifice outlets in the set. Instead, you get your death trigger payoffs by blighting onto your own creatures. This is by far Blight's best color pair, and it's the only archetype where you actively want your own creatures to die. You can also kill off your own creatures the old-fashioned way by getting into combat with them. Given how many goblins have death triggers, your opponents will often be reluctant to trade or even block with some of their larger creatures. The Goblins deck wants to close the door quickly before your opponent can exploit the card disadvantage that killing off your own creatures creates. As such, Bogart Mischief is an incredibly important uncommon to this archetype, providing valuable reach in addition to more bodies. The Elf deck in Lorwyn Eclipsed is a green-black graveyard deck. Elves in this set care about having an elf in your graveyard, and many of them mill cards to help you get to that benchmark. Iron Shield Elf at uncommon is a hard-to-remove threat that can put an elf in your graveyard manually. Lethally blighting onto an elf is another way to guarantee that you get one into your graveyard. Midnight Tilling at common is a great way to fill your graveyard while also providing valuable card selection. We've seen similar cards from past limited environments like Catch Grab and Dredger's Insight overperform, and I expect the same to be true for Midnight Tilling. Once you have a stocked graveyard, Unbury will become one of your best forms of card advantage, returning 2 dead elves to your hand for 2 mana at instant speed. While there are elementals in every color in Lorwyn Limited, the highest density of them are in the blue-red color pair. As such, the blue-red big spells deck is elementals, and the elementals archetype wants you to cast spells with mana value 4 or greater. As is often the case with big spells matter archetypes, there are lots of ways to loot and rummage through your deck, which helps solve the classic wrong half problem, drawing too many big spells and not enough early game, or vice versa. Because there are elementals in every color, and because blue and red are the 2 colors that pair with green for the dedicated Vivid deck, many elemental decks will actually turn out to be flavors of the Teamer Vivid archetype. The multiple low-rarity 2-mana ramp spells in green make casting 4-drops ahead of schedule a lot easier, and the green color fixing allows you to splash large elementals in other colors. And once you're splashing a bunch of elementals at the top of your curve, you might as well include some of those Vivid spells in your pool. The next 2 Kindred types fill the color pairs of red-white and white-black respectively, but both of them also brush green a little bit. You don't have to include green in your deck when building around either of these creature types, but you will sometimes want to, as the color does offer a relevant card to each archetype. What's more, both archetypes deal in a similar strategy. The combination of red and white, as well as a little bit of green, is the home of the Giants on Lorwyn and the Remove Counters deck. The sub-theme for Giants is a kind of unburdening, which here translates to removing counters from your creatures for beneficial effects. This isn't a unique mechanic to Giants by any means, mind you. Kithkin, Treefolk, and Merfolk each have a white creature at low rarity that also incorporates removing counters from themselves. Because there are not many Giants in the set, red-white decks you build will not rely as much on Kindred synergy as many of the other color pairs. Instead, you'll want to build an assertive value deck that combines powerful blight cards with your creatures that easily remove counters from themselves. As such, this is another deck that loves the blight mechanic. White-black is the Treefolk color pair in Lorwyn Limited, though if you open several Great Forest Druids or Tend the Sprigs, you may be better off building an Abzan deck. Tend the Sprigs especially is an exceptional card if it regularly generates a 3/4 in your deck on resolution. There aren't really any other payoffs for building around Treefolk in this set. As such, I recommend treating the white-black like a mid-range value deck rather than a Treefolk deck. Like the red-white deck, white-black has several ways to remove counters for value. In other words, in white-black, you should plan to blight to your heart's content. Red-green and green-blue don't have a specific creature type associated with them, though your deck may borrow a little bit from the Kindred payoffs from any of the colors your deck touches. Mainly though, your deck should be built to maximize the Vivid mechanic. This is a multicolor ramp deck through and through. The uncommon Vivid creatures in red, blue, and green are all excellent if your Vivid count is regularly 3. And ideally, you'll be able to increase your count to 5 without too much trouble. The color combination can easily splash white or black bombs that require only a single pip of that color, and will often actively want to. Identifying the bomb cards that you open is the key to building a great pre-release deck, rather than a mediocre one. With many rares in your pool, often across a wide spread of colors, it can be difficult to know which ones are the best of them if you haven't seen any of them before or played with any of them before. That's why in this section, I'll discuss some of the best bombs in each color, the kind of cards that tell you should absolutely be building a deck in that color. White has several great rares, all of which encourage you to build an assertive go-wide deck. The two best are a pair of 3-mana value engines, Ajani, Outland Chaperone, and Brigid, Clackken's Heart. Both cards ask very little of you. They will win the game on their own if left unanswered. Morningtide's Light is another interesting card that will often win you the game on resolution. You can use this to clear away all your opponent's blockers for a lethal swing, or you can use it to blink your own board full of ETB creatures. Either way, it's a great effect. Blue has multiple good rares, but 3 stand head and shoulders above the rest. Sunderflock is one of the best possible payoffs for putting elementals in your deck that I can imagine. An absurd 1-card tempo swing that can technically cost as little as 2 mana. And then you have a 5/5 flyer. Honestly, this is one of the best rares in the entire set. Harmonized Crescendo is another ridiculous card, one of the best generic Kindred payoffs in Lorwyn Eclipsed. It's at its best in Merfolk and Fairy decks, where you're most likely to have a wide board to both pay the Convoke cost and get the most out of its card draw. Lochmare is the strongest standalone blue rare. It's an excellent home for blight counters, and will ensure you never run out of things to do with your mana. Most of Black's best rares are all payoffs for the various Kindred strategies that touch Black. But the best Black rare, and likely one of the best rares in the set, is great even outside of its Kindred deck. Bitterbloom Bearer, also known as Bitter Blossom on a Stick. If you can cast this card on your opponent's end step after they've tapped out for their own 2-drop, you've guaranteed yourself at least 2 flying bodies for 2 mana. And if they don't kill it on their very next turn, the value Bitterbloom Bearer generates will run away with the game. Red has some of the weaker rares in the set. It has multiple rares that are perfectly serviceable rate cards, but few that will actively draw you into the color. Spinerock Tyrant is the most notable exception. This is an outstanding evasive threat in and of itself, and if you manage to untap with it and start copying your removal spells, it won't take very long for you to emerge victorious. I'm also quite fond of Scuzzback Scrounger if you have plenty of blight fodder or ways to remove the counters. If you can make the Blight 1 downside negligible, the mana this card produces will put you very far ahead indeed. Green has several good rares as well, including the best of the Champions cycle, Champions of the Perfect. This green champion is not only an exceptional card advantage engine, but it's also a 6/6 for 4. Meanwhile, Aurora Awakener is perhaps the best Vivid payoff in the whole set. If you have a vivid count of 5, resolving this card will often immediately win you the game. Mutable Explorer and Bloom Tender are both excellent ramp creatures in different ways. Essentially, the Explorer creates 3 power across 2 bodies, while also putting a land into play. And both bodies contribute to whatever Kindred synergies you have. Bloom Tender will regularly tap for 2 or even 3 mana on most turns. An insane amount of extra mana to work with from a card you only spent 2 mana on up front. Mana fixing takes a slightly different form in Lorwyn Eclipsed than it does in many limited sets. That's because there is not a cycle of common dual lands to help you meet your color requirements. Yes, the 5-color pairs get shock lands at the rare slot, but this is not something you can count on opening in your sealed pool. Lorwyn Eclipsed features some of the strongest green color fixing at low rarities that we've seen in a limited environment in quite some time. Great Forest Druid is an excellent mana dork. 4 toughness makes it a solid blocker, and tapping for any color gives you a lot of flexibility to splash colors at the top of your curve. Shimmerwild's Grove is also excellent ramp and fixing at 2 mana, though this one makes you choose what color you want to fix for when it enters. Still, not being a creature means it's less vulnerable to removal, making it a reliable way to accelerate your mana. Outside of green, the best fixing available comes from an incomplete cycle of hybrid mana creatures with excellent ETBs. Kithkin, Merfolk, Goblins, Elementals, and Elves each have an Eclipsed creature, a hybrid mana 2 or 3 drop that looks at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a basic land of one of its 2 colors, or a card that shares a creature type with it. These 5 creatures are premier uncommons for their respective archetypes. Blue and red specifically have basic land cyclers at common, but none of the other 3 colors do. Every color pair has access to a few good colorless fixers at low rarities. The most useful lands at low rarities for fixing are Evolving Wilds and Eclipsed Realms. This sets variation on an unclaimed territory style creature typal land. Changeling Wayfinder is an excellent common for pretty much any deck, fixing your mana while providing a body that counts towards whatever Kindred synergies you may have in your deck. Alright, let's take a look at the deck that I built using my pre-release pool, which I opened earlier in the video. As always, the very first thing I did was to look at my rares. I noticed I had a lot of rares in Abzan colors, including a green-black shockland. Nice. I also had a powerful payoff for going deep in a Kindred synergy, Chronicle of Victory. My only white rare happened to be one of the few non-Golgari elves, Reese the Evermore. This suggested I could play an Abzan Elves deck if I had sufficient mana fixing. But on the other hand, my red rare would also be very powerful in a red-black Blight deck. Next, I moved on to look over each of my colors. Black was by far my deepest color, followed by red, then blue. However, I noticed something interesting about my pool. I had 3 mana dorks at 2 mana, as well as 2 changeling wayfarers. In fact, the vast majority of my 2 mana plays were in green. 2 mana plays are very important and limited. That's because if you have one and your opponent doesn't, then you're immediately ahead early game. I decided to try a green-black deck with a light white splash, with the help of my multicolor fixing. Immediately, I liked the look of this deck. The curve is excellent and my fixing is great. I'm able to play most of my rares, and the best rare in my pool, Chronicle of Victory, is being maximized to the fullest extent. I have 3 mana dorks to help cast it sooner, and 2 copies of Midnight Tilling to help find it. What's more, I have 15 total elves if you include the changelings, which means I'm likely to get several card draw triggers out of my Chronicle anytime I'm able to get it in play. I decided to include 2 copies of Scarblade's Malice because I was a bit light on removal, and I make great use of the elf tokens it produces. Overall, this is an excellent elf deck, one I would be really happy to build and play with this weekend at my pre-release events. And there you have it, everything you need to know to succeed at Lorwyn Eclipsed pre-release. Pre-release events are never something you want to miss, but this pre-release, will be something particularly special. If you'd like to see these cards actually played in a pre-release event, you can check out our newest episode of Shuffle Up and Play with Sam, aka Ristic Studies, Aaron Hansen, and Zach the Bold, where we crack open a pre-release box of our own and play with the cards we've just discussed. But whether you check out that video or just want to hear what the best cards from this new set are for Commander, please note that this is an exceptional set, one that we'll be talking about for years and years to come. If you haven't already, try and sign up for a pre-release this weekend at your local game store. It's something that Tolarian Community College says is absolutely worth it.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Welcome to Shuffle Up and Play. Today, Mystery Booster 2, but we will each be building a commander deck from the contents.
It's a huge set. I'm trying to remember how many cards were in it?
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with the garbage, by the way, so I've just been
Yeah, sure.
chucking it behind me.
Our highly skilled editors will love picking up Foxy's
I'm gonna
garbage.
pick it up! I'm gonna pick it up!
Play a Forest and a Mox Poison.
How did Fast Mana get into this?
Josh made the saddest face. Look at that! How am I supposed to? I hit you for 7. Untap.
Yes, you will.
Thank you so much
It
for
resolves.
allowing. I will
resolves.
draw. Okay.
It resolves.
Thanks so much.
You haven't said how's it once. You said hello in your intro.
How's it? How's it?
How's it?
Now you got it. Editors,
All
you're
right.
good? Okay.
Yeah.